conquest. Joining me now is a Republican lawmaker who has called on the White House to do much more on Syria. Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois is back with me. He sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Thanks for being here.
You bet.
Look, we spoke a few weeks ago. You sent a letter imploring the White House in July to do more. Looking at this now, the Assad regime has conducted more than 100 airstrikes. They've used barrel bombs, rockets, artillery, trying to retake Idlib. You've been clear you don't think the White House has done enough. What should the White House do at this point?
I don't think this White House has done enough. I don't think the last White House has done enough. This started in '01, and we've been very silent in our response. We're scared to death of any escalation, and I understand that. I understand this, this kind of being gun shy about what's going on in the Middle East, but there's 500,000 dead Syrians, 50,000 of which are children, and I think if we're serious about winning the war on terror, one of the things we have to do is deprive ISIS or al-Qaeda of their next generation of terrorists. And right now, because of the actions of Bashar al-Assad, he is producing a whole new generation of people that are so ticked off, so disaffected, so angry, so disenfranchised that they're joining groups like al-Qaeda and ISIS. I'd love to see a no-fly zone. Truthfully, it's probably not going to happen from this administration, but I think holding firm on enforcing the red line against the use of chemical weapons is essential. Sanctions against Syria and Russia, et cetera, that's got to get done.
And on that point, to be clear, you have not heard back from the White House yet, right, on that letter that you sent calling for the no-fly zones? You talk about sanctions. I mean, the House passed a measure that would install stepped-up sanctions on Bashar al-Assad's regimes, including any forces that are supportive of him. So that would be Russia. You say it's time for the Senate to pass this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it look likely at all?
I don't know. I mean, look, the problem with the Senate and the problem with some folks over in the Senate is they're scared to death to exert America's influence, and not for imperialistic reasons, but because we are uniquely capable of being able to enforce human rights and human dignity around the globe and to stand up and say that atrocities have no place. We've been blessed with the ability to do that diplomatically, militarily, and economically. And a lot of those folks over in the Senate, I mean, even people on my side of the aisle, look back and say, gosh, I yearn again for a day in which America has no presence outside of its own borders. And that's tragic for me. And so the Senate is stalled. I think even if you do these sanctions more against Russia, also against Iran and Syria, it's not going to stop Idlib. They're going to do what they're going to do. But it's sending a very strong message that we stand for something, for God's sake, something.
And Mattis has been clear that he's not going to message what the U.S. response would be, right? Dire consequences is what Nikki Haley said. What that will mean or could mean militarily, Mattis is not saying at this point. I know you're all over this, and we're watching very, very closely. I do want to get you on politics in your party in the midterms, because you heard what Mitch McConnell said there, right? And we're 55 days away. Is he right? Is this a knife fight for Republicans when it comes to holding on to the Senate?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a battle, House and Senate. If you look at the fact, every time one party has had unified control, with the exception of like 2002 and maybe one other year in recent memory, the party in control loses seats. We knew that going into this. But I think as Republicans, we have to regain our message. I think we've done great things for the economy. We need to talk about that. And we need to show our compassion for people. That's why I think things like Syria are so important. So, look, it's going to be a battle, that's for sure.
But that's interesting. I mean, you look at the new CNN polling this week. You saw it, the alarm bells, you think ringing maybe in your party when it comes to the drop-off in independence for the president. 47% a month ago, now only 31% approve of the job he's doing. And you say we have to, as a party, show compassion more and empathy more and message that. What about on that front, the president, when it comes to the message on Hurricane Maria and Puerto Rico? I mean, you heard him yesterday, this morning. He tweeted, "We did an unappreciated good job in Puerto Rico." And yesterday he called it an incredible unsung success.
Yeah.
2,975 people, those are American citizens down there, died.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that an unsung success?
No, I think we can always do better, but I think you have to look at the reality of what happened in Puerto Rico. It's a terrible loss of human life, and we need to learn everything we can from it. 9 days after the hurricane struck, only 50% of the Puerto Rican National Guard, for whatever reason, was on duty. They are the first responders in Puerto Rico to be able to distribute aid, and once it gets to the airport, you had destroyed infrastructure. As a guardsman, my unit went to Puerto Rico. It takes time to activate the National Guard.
But you
to get
read
them
the
there.
Government Accountability Report, right? That came out last week. And they said, I mean, the author of the report said FEMA was, quote, not prepared to take on an event like this, right?
Yep.
Lessons learned?
Absolutely. We need to learn that lesson. And like I said, there's a lot of things President tweets I wouldn't tweet. One of them is those. And I think as a government, we need to always look and say, how can we do things better? We will never have a perfect response. What can we learn from Puerto Rico to do better this time?
Yeah, and we're watching. You've got so many Americans in the eye of this storm right now. Congressman Kinzinger, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You bet. Take care.
All right, we'll be right back with